Hey, what's going on, guys? Xiangqi PGN here. In this video we'll learn how to talk to UDP server from the browser. So for those of you who just came to this series, so here I'm trying to create a multiplayer game to play Chinese chess Xiangqi with other people over the internet. And the most interesting thing is, well, obviously that I've never done this before, and I'm learning this networking stuff on my own within this project. And I had a consultation with someone, a good friend of mine, just a few moments ago, and I try to describe him the project I'm currently working on, and asked him what he thinks about this. He said, like, from the perspective of how in particular I'm doing this is quite pretty weird, but at the same time he said that probably this is the most didactic approach possible in order to showcase this networking technologies in regards to board games and the matter of playing like one person versus another person by the internet. So from this sort of a perspective, this might be incredibly insightful and interesting. And I need to say that I've just what I've done so far, I just try to play around with this HTTP server interacting with the UDP server, and it's quite pretty interesting thing to consider. And the benefit of having both on the server side, like both the HTTP server and the UDP server, we can avoid really lots of complications related with the connection state and things like that. So all the interaction would be done via the string core parameters, basically. And well, this might be weird, this is incredibly hackable, but we're not talking about security or something, but we're just trying to create a proof of concept implementation. So if you more like kind of to be learning to be following the process that I'm doing and don't really care much about the result, then welcome aboard, and we begin. So a few words before I create a next file and start coding. So the idea is very simple. So, well, probably first I need to demonstrate this UDP client and server model I've created in the last video. So here we're just creating a server socket, binding this to the specific IPN port. This is running on the local host, and then from the client we're just making sending some packages and waiting for response. So I just want to show you how this works. So if I just open the terminal, and here I just say Python 3, I call it UDP server.py. Okay. So it now listens to the incoming requests, and now if I just open another terminal and I just say Python 3 UDP client.py and hit enter, so we already got the response from the server and the credentials, and the server did process this sort of request. Now we have kind of backend, this UDP server, and the front end, which in our case now this is a custom Python script we're working with. So this sort of a client side would be the HTTP server. So from the end user perspective, the browser would be requesting the HTTP server, and HTTP server would be interacting with the UDP server. So from the UDP server perspective, HTTP server is a front end, but obviously from the end user perspective, HTTP server is one backend, and a UDP server is even backend behind the backend, if I can say so. I'm sorry for this noob's explanation, but that's exactly the way how I understand this now. And for me personally, within this project, the most important thing is to make clear of what in particular I'm doing. So I might be wrong. I will definitely change that later on if something is going to be going horribly wrong. But again, like, the most important thing for me just to understand what I do. That's far more important compared to going to the best practices straight ahead, because if I do something that seems to be how it should be, but I don't understand, it doesn't make any sense to me. So I really want to emphasize the process rather than the result, and this from bottom to top approach. So starting from just start coding and then see how it goes. As far as this is the hobby project, it's not intended for it's not a job for a client or something. So this approach is really perfect for me to learn new things. And if this would be as well for you, then I would be really happy for you guys. So now what do we need to do next? So I just I close this terminal, and for now I will keep the terminal with the UDP server running. I just minimize it for now. So now this sort of a code would be invoked from the HTTP server that we didn't yet create, but we will do this just right in a moment. So I'm using Python and Flask framework for this purposes, and I just create the app.py file. The reason for naming this app, because I'm going to be deploying this at Python Anywhere one day, and it's just, you don't need to change any configurations if you just have this app.py. So here we see, so this would be the literally the HTTP server to play Chinese chess. Okay, to play Chinese chess CNC. Okay, and we want to import the packages, so we'll need to from Flask import Flask. We'll also need to say from Flask import request, because we would be working with a request, literally what we send here by the browser address line, and also we will need to import JSON to parse the request, and also from the UDP class server, so also we'll need to import the socket. So import socket, probably let's import it before anything else. Okay, and and now we need to create app instance, so I can simply say app. By the way, this variable app is also predefined, because for Python Anywhere it's crucial to have exactly call it app.py and the app instance, because otherwise you'll need to manually change some configurations, and I really want to avoid that. So app equals to Flask and name like this. I don't specify the templates folder, because by default it would be the templates. We're not going to be creating this in this video at very least, but this is just enough. And now the main driver, so I can say if name equals to main. In this case, I want to run HTTP server, so I say app.run, and I want to enable the debug mode, so I don't need to restart the server every time, so debug equals to true. And also I want to make it multi-threaded, so threaded equals to true as well. And the only thing we need more at the moment is the route. So for now, let's make it just a test route, just a proof of concept one. So we need to say, so this is the function decorator from the Python programming language. So app.route, and let's make it well, we can talk, well, I don't know if I would be binding to games or to the boards. It's a little bit unclear for me at the moment, but let's assume let's bind for boards for a while. Let's let it be board 1, and let's say, so we will be having the move. No, we would be having the site equals to, well, let's say red, and also move. And for now, let's make it connect, because we're not making moves for now. We just need to make sure that we do connect. Okay, so this is just the string query parameters, nothing much. Okay, and here's the callback function. So how do we call it? So this would be running asynchronously later on. So let's say move, maybe. Yeah, let's call it move. I think this is just fine. And let's return, well, for now, let's return like it's alive, to make sure that it actually kind of works. Okay, so UDP server is still running. Now I want to say python 3 app.py. So they should start a server at port number 5000 and localhost. And now I want to go to localhost and this specific route. So port 1 and the string parameters. Okay, paste and go in there. What? Oh, sorry, not like this. Localhost. Okay, and then paste. Okay, it's alive. Good. So now we have the response from our HTTP server, which is already good. And now all the code that relates to talking to UDP would be done here within this route. But before that, I just want to do a couple more things. So, well, let's say, how I just need to store the move, or user input, or how to call it. I just don't know how to call the variable. It's the toughest thing to name the variable properly. Okay, let's call it move equals to, well, it might be just the way collisions with the function name. So how to call it? Let's call it user data. So user data would be equal to request dot args. Well, later on, I would be using the post request. So in that case, this would be like request like post, like request dot form. But on the other hand, this is just fine as well. No, it might not be fun because of precaution. So maybe I should make it. I just don't really want to use this postman like software. Do I have something to make post requests? Well, I can actually write some jQuery code on the front end. No, just to avoid complications. Yeah, for proof of concept stuff, we'll now keep it just as is, because this is just yeah, this is just a proof of concept. So for now, let's use request args. Save. And I want to convert them to a dictionary. Okay. And then I want to stringify them. So I need to say JSON.dumps like this. And this would be the user data is something I would be sending to our UDP server. But for now, let's just say user data and plus user data, just to make sure that we do parse it properly. So from now on, what we input here should be the server should output what we've just input. Okay, nothing. It's a bit strange. Have any errors? Nope. Okay, user data request. Now it should give the error because it's not a string or something. Is it? Yeah, must be a string. Okay. So if I just stringify, I just want to make sure that the request args are available there. I'm sorry, guys. Oh, but it doesn't seem to. Hold on a sec. Oh, this is a bit weird because I just had a successful experience on. So why can't I get the request args? Seems very weird. Okay, let's start from the very beginning. So request dot args. Oh, hold on a sec. What have I done? What have I done? It's treating this to be Sorry, it's written this to be the route instead of string query parameters. Yeah, now this should be just fine. So let's make it like this. Okay, finally, so we have this site rat move equals to connect. Okay, so now let's use this user data. It should be something similar. Okay, yeah, okay, good. So now this is the string that was supposed to be sent into our UDP to our UDP server. So I will now reuse the code from UDP client. This stuff can be used globally because it's all the same. I can even make it paste it up here. Okay, and now creating a socket, sending the request and waiting for response and closing the socket. So all this stuff would be now reused here. So okay, so here we want to extract user input data. Okay, and now here we want to send this user data, but we need to convert it to bytes. In order to do this, I can simply say string.encode, and I will encode my user data. Okay, so well, I don't actually need the credentials probably, but yeah, this is still fine. So print message. So yeah, I don't want to print any messages here. And this data would be bytes. So maybe I call this server data, and here I want to just convert server data to string. So server data equals to server data decode, I guess. Seems to be enough, really. Okay, and let's return the server data, and I hold my breath and I try this again. So let's see. Yeah, this was from the previous. Yeah, this was from the custom client. So let's make it always on top. And okay, so now I sent the message from the browser, and server gives us this server response, which it does by default. But server has taken this site move. So the idea that the UDP server has just received this line from the browser. Okay, so now within the UDP server we can make use of this data, and then it just sends the response back to client. But at the moment, the response it sends to client is just a bare string, but obviously we'll need to some specific data regarding, like, let's say, for example, the connection. It's not the connection in the TCP perspective, but rather something a little bit more trivial. So I will now demonstrate so you would be more clear with this sort of stuff. Okay, so I press Control-C to stop the UDP server, and this implicitly frees the port 8888, this one. So I can restart it without any to kill a port next time. Okay, so now within the UDP server, I need to do the following stuff. At the moment, I have no idea how I'm supposed to be dealing with a multiple game. So at first, I just want to deal with a single game, right? So I just want to create the game. So let's say single game. So later on, probably this game would be the part of the games list. I have no idea how this is gonna be eventually, but let's just make the proof of concept interaction at first, and then we'll see how it goes. So I just want to create a game. This would be a dictionary, and here we'll have the red and equals to false. So this would mean like so this is like connection. So let's say not connected. But I include this connected because we don't really have a connection state like in TCP. But anyway, same for black. So this would be false as well. Okay, and then we have not connected either. Okay, and then moves. Well, just let's make it a list. Still have no idea how this is gonna be working, but for now I just want to kind of like sorry guys, establish connection, right? And just to break out of the loop for a while, and then we'll start another loop to actually interact with the moves. This might seem a little bit of redundancy for a single game, but if we would be having multiple games, this might be on the cards at some point. So maybe just wrap this within the function later on too. Well, I don't know. It's a bit of a downside of live coding that you have no idea what you will have as the end result. So anyway, let's make a condition. So while game red is equal to false, or game black is equal to false, we just continue this loop. Okay, and here let's say connection established. So we say if in this case equals to true, and game black, black should be from the lowercase, and game black is equal to true. In this case I want to print, probably later on we would be using the game ID. Let's say game and game ID and let's say game ID connection has been established, something like that, and then we just break out of the loop. Okay, so this is it, and now so this data in the server side, it's now in the bytes, so we need to convert this to string first. So let's call this, so there, here we had the server data, or how did I call it? Server data. Yeah, so let's call it client data. Okay. Okay, this can be still there. So let's say parse client data. So I can say client data equals, so first we need to convert this to string. So we need to say client data to decode, and then I can use JSON loads to actually convert this to dictionary. Okay, and then the main condition. So now this should be accessible as a dictionary. So let's say if client data, let's say red equals to connect, no, let's say if client data red or client data black equals to connect, this would be most likely changed later on. Yeah, in this case I want to say game indexed by side, by client side, game indexed by client data side. So this would be red or black respectively, equals to true. Okay, and now what we want to send back as the response, we want to send this custom game. So let's take our game and we want to convert this to, first we want to convert this to string, so I need to say JSON dot dumps game, and now all of this stuff we need to say string dot encode, so to convert this to bytes. So if I did everything correctly, this now should be working. So well, anyway, let's try to give it a try. So I'll start the UDP server again and going back to the browser, and let's see what's happening. So first, yeah, let's try to connect with the red. So now when I click enter, when I hit enter, it should give the game state from the UDP server. So it should return this structure as a string back to the browser, and it should be like, well, I didn't yet do anything with ID. Yeah, this probably would be the next thing to consider. Well, for now we can just drop this ID. So it should be saying like game ID false, red equals to true, black false, and no moves, because we do set this site equals to red, and we have this move equals to connect, which is the condition to set the site to move to be true in terms of it did connect. Okay, so let's go for it. Okay, name data is not defined. Okay, so it's crashed. Where is the data? Oh, it's because client data here. Is that it? Should be. Let's try again. Break. Start again. Line 33. Didn't save it. Oh my god, I didn't save it. Okay. Okay, JSON is not defined. Didn't I import JSON here? Oh, I didn't. Okay. Import JSON. Save. And one last time. So starting UDP server. Going. Okay. Well, this is interesting. So key error red. This is a little bit strange. So let's get back to our process and stuff. So did the UDP server? Okay, so here it is. So he got this site red move. Oh, hold on a sec. What have I done? I'm sorry. Just the wrong condition. I'm sorry, guys. So sorry for this. If data move actually equals to connect, so it doesn't matter which site. This is the first thing. Client data. And also just to bring the decoded stuff here. So message, client data. We don't even need the credentials basically, but we can keep them. So let's try again. Okay. Seems like now it's working. So we have, yeah, we don't have a red black key. So we have the site key and the move key. I'm sorry. Okay, so what has just happened? So we did send this parameters to HTTP server, and then HTTP server did send this parameters to UDP server. So UDP server receives site equals to red, move equals to connect. So as far as move equals to connect, this condition fires this one. So he sets the game and he picks up the site from the client data and sets it to true, and then returns the game object back to the HTTP server, and the HTTP server sends it back to the browser. So we have, after we're on this sort of stuff, we have that ID false, red equals to true, black equals to false. Okay. So even if we just do this one more time, we have absolutely the same, but we didn't yet break out of the loop here, here in the UDP server, because the condition is to have both sites being kind of like connected. So if we now say site black and run, and now you see like game false is just ID. So connection has been established, and we have this red true and black also true. So from now on, we know that both kind of sites has been connected. Now let's now, as far as this proof of concept interaction between the kind of like the user browser front end and the server has been established. One of the most reasonable questions arising here might be like, how the heck do we know that the proper user actually made the move? So to avoid situations like a single user makes move for both sides, basically, right? So the way I'm implementing this is completely insecure, and it can be hacked very easily. But the idea is that the UI would be responsible for sending the proper response to HTTP server, and respectively that would be redirected to the UDP server later on. And actually, when you would be kind of like connecting to the game, I say kind of like because it's not the real connection in terms of TCP connection. It's UDP is a stateless protocol. But let's say you want to join the game, then when another kind of like opponent would like to join the game, he would need to make sure that, so let's say if red equals to true, that means that he can connect with the red because it's already taken by another opponent, right? So he can only connect with black, and on the contrary as well. So once one has connected, the other would be able to connect only from the other side. This model doesn't handle literally tons of incredibly important things like what happens if user disappears and things like that. But again, like it's not the case for us at the moment. It's not It's not the issue. We need just to establish this proof of concept interaction stuff. So how I see this, well, especially bear in mind the fact that in order to debug this stuff, I don't have a separate IP address for this, and bear in mind that everything goes locally on my computer. I can use just my own browser, and the IP would always be the local host. Yes, it would be the different port every time, but the IP would always be the same. So the matter of distinguishing between the player 1 that plays red and player 2 that plays black, or on the contrary, that doesn't matter. It would be the matter of this string query parameters. So if we send this that side is black, that means that whatever from the globe this request comes from whatever browser, from any part of the world. This means that actually for a current game, for game 1, we're waiting for move for either black or white. So this means that in order to hack, if you just manually send a request where you fake the site, you can make move instead of your opponent and win the game. But bear in mind the fact that in our case, there won't be any radiance, there won't be any time controls, because I really want to make a site to play with other humans that are really noobs in CNC like I am. So no need to cheat, and even if you just play with the agent, it doesn't matter, it doesn't make sense, because just you're not getting any social benefits from it, hence no reason for doing that. There are really lots of sites supporting radiance and time controls. So this future sites go, if it ever about to appear, is absolutely different. So just the pure play, no time control, just to play with other human, and it would be starting like like from the play with a friend mode. So like you can send a link to the opponent, or maybe, well, I'm not sure how exactly this would be working at the moment, to be honest. But anyway, this should be. I don't know. This should be. That's all what I can say. Okay, yeah. So probably the very last thing to consider is, probably I can remove from the app here. It's probably the last thing I want to do. So I don't want to specify. So I'll specify the board number as a parameter as well. So let's say board like this. And okay, can I start? Well, before I start the UDP server, I also want to update that a little bit as well. So here I also want to say game ID would be equal to client data. It would be overriding this stuff, but at the moment it doesn't matter really, because for now we're handling the only single game possible out there. And then, yeah, so for now this would be the only game. Okay, the only board I'm in. So client data and ID, yes. Game ID, or how to call it. How am I supposed to be calling this? So I say ID equals to 1 like this. Yeah, I think this is the case. ID. Well, okay, let's call it game ID. Game ID. Okay, game ID. So game ID here, save. And now it also should be initializing the ID. Okay, so let's start the server again. This is the UDP server. Okay. And now let's try to connect from the black side first, because it doesn't matter who connects first. So here, okay. The URL you vendor is not supported. Oh, sorry. That's because I need to make it like this. yeah, so we have the game ID equals to 1, red equals to false, but black equals to true. And here we say select the game ID has been set. Okay, and now let's connect from the red perspective. Okay, and now the connection has been established, and yeah, we just break out from this loop. So the next loop would be to handle the actual moves back and forth. And then when the game ends, yeah, I think, well, again, for UDP it doesn't matter whether the game ends or not, because it doesn't really care. It doesn't really have to care about the connection, like from the TCP perspective. That's the real benefit of using UDP here. Okay, guys, so this is it from my side regarding this video. I'm not exactly sure what we're supposed to be doing in the next one. I still need to play around with this on my own, but I think that actually sending the moves would be the case, and I just want to see, like, I'll probably just open 2 tabs to see like making move from one side and then just receiving this from another side. That's probably the way to go. Yeah, it's really no idea how this is gonna be working at the moment, to be honest, but yeah, I really need to work that out on my own to share with you guys. Well, okay, so this is from my side. Thanks for watching. Until the next time, and take care.